On Thanksgiving morning, the front door of Deborah Sullivan's house stood locked and dark. The familiar wreath hung, but something was wrong. The hardware was new.
14 missed calls, straight to voicemail. That woman never ignores her phone.
Janet left the first voicemail at 9:14 a.m., her voice bewildered. Deborah, it's Mom. We've called a dozen times. Is your phone broken? Please call me. By 10:30 a.m., the second message had lost its patience. Deborah, answer right now. Thanksgiving is at your house, and nobody knows when to arrive. This is not acceptable.
She drove her packed minivan, telling her husband she always threatens to quit, but she never does. The turkey will be perfect.
The caravan pulled into Deborah's driveway just before noon. Lights were off. No cars except a neighbor's sedan. 18 people spilled onto the porch, chattering about side dishes and football until Catherine tried the knob.
It's locked. She never locks the front door on a holiday. Catherine fumbled with her key. This isn't even the same deadbolt.
The crowd pressed closer, murmuring. A child whined about being cold. Someone muttered, "Call her again."
Catherine dialed with shaking fingers. Deborah, this is insane. There are 18 people here. Please answer. No ring. Straight to voicemail.
The disaster on the porch had a long fuse. 9 years earlier, when Deborah bought the house, she wanted to fill it with family. That first Thanksgiving, the dining room glowed with hope. This is the family house now. We'll gather here every holiday.
We'll never have to worry about where to go again. You're such a natural.
By year 3, Gregory and Catherine arrived empty-handed. Every time. No wine, no dessert, no offer to clean.
Sis, you outdo yourself. I'll just wait here until it's time to eat.
The wall calendar told the story. Red circles bleeding across months. 31 holidays she'd financed alone.
They talk and laugh while I scrub. I've become the invisible woman in her own house.
He'd hold her shoulders at midnight. You're not a restaurant, Deb. But every year, you let them treat you like one.
She'd swoop in with strangers. I knew you wouldn't mind a few more. Family is family.
The bitterness crystallized. She'd stopped waiting for thank yous, but the silence was filling with something else. A decision. Catherine's July 4th text, bringing 5 in-laws. You've got extra, right? No warning, no offer to help.
The grill was already under budget. Now I have to stretch the potato salad again. Gregory pushed his plate away, said I never remember. He hates apple pie. He didn't touch the rest of the meal.
Hours later, while the last guests slept, Deborah stood alone at the sink, scrubbing dried plates under dim light.
2 a.m., 47 plates. Not one, thank you.
Eric came up behind her. Enough, Deb. We can't do another holiday like this.
She dried her hands. I'll tell them tomorrow. Just that I won't host. No explanation. No debate.
The next morning, she typed into the family group chat, "I won't be hosting Thanksgiving this year." Sent. She silenced the phone. The phone buzzed 5 times in 3 minutes. Janet's name, then Gregory's. She didn't reach for it. She slid the drawer shut. The house settled into a new quiet, heavy with a decision no one else knew was coming. Janet called Catherine within the hour, dismissive. She always panics before holidays. By noon, she'll have the turkey in the oven. They agreed to ignore the message. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Gregory texted a single question, "What time?" He received no reply.
Maybe if I ignore it, they'll understand. But she knew better.
That night, the laptop screen glowed with a confirmation. TAP Air Portugal. 2 passengers. Lisbon. Departure 7 a.m. Eric swapped the deadbolt on Saturday. The old lock hit the trash can. Neighbors raked leaves. No one noticed the change. Her suitcase swallowed a guidebook, a sundress, a passport. Not a lot of space, but enough for this.
You sure about this?
I've been sure since the day I realized they'd never ask.
By midnight, the house was dark, the new lock glowing under the porch light. The only sound was the hum of the furnace. The house slept. Her phone remained off. bags by the door. In 6 hours, they'd be over the Atlantic. At 5 a.m., she pulled the door shut, the new lock clicking. No timer, no lights. They reached the terminal just after 5:30. Check-in took 3 minutes. Eric bought 2 coffees. The gate lounge was empty, the window just starting to glow. Deborah stared at the departure board. Lisbon, on time. She pulled out her phone. She snapped a photo of the boarding passes, typed Happy Thanksgiving, hit post.
Boarding passes. Lisbon. She did it. This can't be real.
Janet's voicemail. You selfish woman. 18 people waiting. This is not a joke. Catherine glanced at her phone. A post from Deborah. An airport. Her foot hit the brake. In Pittsburgh, 3 cars were already moving toward her house. Catherine's minivan, Gregory's sedan, Janet's SUV. At the gate, the attendant called priority boarding. Deborah turned off her phone and took Eric's hand. They walked the jet bridge, tickets in hand. No second glances.
From the window, runway lights blurred. The weight of 9 years thinned.
On I-79, Catherine's minivan hummed with holiday chatter. The rearview mirror showed 17 faces.
She dialed Gregory. Have you talked to her? I can't believe she'd actually fly out.
Gregory's voice crackled through the speaker. Relax. She'll be there. She always is. Probably just a power play. I'm heading there now. I'll get the oven going. By the time you show, this'll all be a joke.
He doesn't understand. She changed the locks. The boarding passes were real.
At that moment, the plane lifted off. Deborah looked down at the patchwork of fields and closed her eyes. In the minivan, someone joked about the turkey being late. Catherine forced a smile and pressed the gas.
The driveway will be empty. I know it. Why am I still driving?
The wheels touched down in Lisbon at 8:15 a.m. local. Deborah stepped into a terminal of white stone and warm sun.
No one asking about a roasting pan. No texts, no guilt.
They dropped bags at the hotel and walked Calzada streets. Eric pointed toward the Tagus. She smiled. In Pittsburgh, Catherine's minivan turned onto Oak Street. The house was darker than she'd ever seen it.
She rushed the door, key already out. It's not going in. Gregory, this lock wasn't here last month.
A cousin shouted, "Just break a window." 18 people milled on the porch, coats pulled tight. 4,000 miles away, a waiter set 2 glasses of Vinho Verde on a terrace table.
For the first Thanksgiving in 9 years, no one demanded her exhaustion, her money, her silent labor.
Catherine pounded the door. Deborah, if you're in there, this isn't funny. Grandma is cold, and we're all waiting.
The afternoon light hit the Tagus. Deborah lifted her glass and said nothing to anyone. On the porch, Catherine scrolled through restaurant listings, her breath fogging in the cold.
Please, we have 18 people. I know it's Thanksgiving. I'll pay anything. Silence then. Yes, I'll hold.
The confirmation email arrived. 5 p.m. Party of 18, total due $740.
She stared at the number, more than her monthly grocery bill, and for this disaster.
On the terrace, Deborah speared a garlic shrimp. Eric topped off her glass. The phone buzzed, but she didn't flinch.
The notifications stacked. Missed calls, voicemails, texts. She let them stack.
After dessert, she unlocked the screen. 47 messages, each angrier than the last.
She selected all, pressed delete, and set the phone back down.
The screen went dark. She looked at Eric and said, "Best cranberry sauce I've ever had." They stayed until the sky bruised purple, then walked the waterfront in silence. Christmas brought fresh snow and frozen silence. No invitation, no holiday text from Deborah. The family braced for Gregory's kitchen.
The thermometer doesn't lie. It's dry. Someone order pizza. Smoke poured from the oven.
Edward muttered. At Deborah's the bird was never dry. Janet hushed him with a glare. Meanwhile, Deborah's social post showed a hammock strung between palms. Caption, Feliz Navidad. No other explanation. Easter came with spring rain. Catherine volunteered, insisting she could manage. The result was chaos.
The ham slipped off the platter. Don't just sit there. Grab towels. 17 people scrambled.
Janet dabbed her dress. Deborah would have had 3 meat options and a clean floor. The table went quiet.
On the same day, Deborah posted a photo of blue-domed Santorini. Kalo Pasha. The comments filled with rage, but she didn't read them.
From a cliffside cafe, she watched the sea. No guilt, no dread, just the sound of waves and freedom.
Back in Pittsburgh, 3 ruined holidays convinced the family the old arrangement could not hold. No one had offered to host the next, and Deborah was unreachable. In early February, a terse email from Edward summoned Deborah to the family house. She replied with one word, "Fine." She walked in with Eric, her coat still on, and sat at the far end of the living room. No one offered coffee.
Janet began. After everything we've done for you, to abandon us like this, Deborah didn't blink.
She said, "I'll attend 1 gathering a year. I won't cook. If anyone mentions guilt, I walk."
Catherine's voice rose. That's absurd. You owe us more than that. Gregory crossed his arms.
Deborah stood, reached for her purse. "Then I'll owe you from a distance. Enjoy the rest of winter."
Edward barked, "Wait. Sit down. We'll consider it." Janet's face crumpled.
Gregory finally muttered, "Fine. We'll take turns." But this isn't over. Catherine stared at the floor.
She paused at the door. "If I hear one complaint, the deal is off. No exceptions."
The meeting ended without handshakes. Deborah and Eric walked to the car in heavy silence, but the deal was struck. Easter at Gregory's, a lawn chair instead of a dining seat, a ham that survived the oven. Deborah and Eric arrived last, a store-bought lemon cake in hand.
Gregory opened the door, flour on his forehead. "You are late. Catherine can't find the serving spoon."
Catherine shouted from the kitchen. I told you to buy one. Why do I have to do everything?
Deborah set the cake down and smiled. Not her kitchen, not her chaos.
She found a chair, the same one Edward used to claim, and watched the siblings scurry. Eric brought her coffee.
Janet surveyed the crooked table. Well, this is different. She didn't sound displeased.
Edward raised his glass. "At least the wine's cold." Gregory muttered about next year's menu.
For 10 years, she dreaded holidays. Now she simply ate, laughed at a joke, asked for seconds.
Catherine scrubbed a pan, while Deborah finished dessert. No one asked her to help. The rule held. Leaving, Deborah squeezed Eric's hand. The family house wasn't hers anymore. For the first time, that felt like freedom. Back home, the porch lights flicked on. No cars in the driveway. No relatives waiting. She kicked off her shoes, poured 2 coffees, and stepped into the fading light. The sunset spilled orange across the quiet street. She settled into the wicker chair.
Eric clinked his mug against hers. Worth it.
She smiled, eyes closed. Every single mile, every silent second, 9 years of holidays she dreaded. Now, just an evening with the man who stood by her.
The phone remained off, the kitchen untouched. No panic in her chest. A neighbor's dog barked. Leaves rustled. No guilt, no demands. They sat until the streetlights hummed on. No one called. No one expected anything. The family house was exactly where she was. And it was finally completely hers.
The morning after, she made toast. No menu to plan. No grocery list pinned to the fridge.
She caught herself pulling the old binder of recipes, then laughed. It collected dust on a shelf she never looked at. Eric found her in the sunroom, diary open. She had stopped writing years ago. Now, one line, "I went to Portugal," they coped.
They'll test it next 4th of July. Catherine will bring her in-laws unannounced.
Eric set down his coffee. Then we'll be in Buenos Aires, or maybe Japan. Your call?
She looked out the window. The neighborhood was unchanged, but something in her had hardened into a quiet principle. No one would mistake her home for the family house again. The locks were changed. The keys were hers. She hadn't stopped hosting. She had stopped being the only one who cared enough to try. The phone sat silent. For once, that silence didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like room to breathe. And somewhere across town, a minivan idled in a driveway, waiting for an invitation that would never come again, a week after Easter. Her cell phone buzzed at 8 a.m., Janet's number. She let it ring 3 times before answering.
This once-a-year nonsense ends now. Your cousin's getting married in June, and we need a venue.
Deborah set down her coffee. That's not my problem. There are banquet halls, restaurants, Gregory's backyard.
After all we sacrificed, you'd let strangers handle a family wedding? What will people say? Janet's voice cracked.
She kept her voice level. They'll say, you raised a daughter who finally set a boundary. I'm not catering. I'm not hosting.
Silence, then a click. Janet hung up. Deborah stared at the phone, waiting for the guilt to hit. It didn't.
She realized she'd been trained for decades to feel responsible, but that muscle had atrophied.
Her phone buzzed again. Catherine, Mom's crying. Fix this. Deborah typed 3 words. Number, fix it. She turned her phone off and joined Eric in the garden. He was planting tomatoes. No more catering. By afternoon, Gregory called, not to yell, but to ask for the turkey brine recipe. Deborah smiled. The shift had begun. The wedding planning stalled. At 9 p.m., Catherine's name lit up Deborah's phone. She answered, bracing.
No venue will take us this late. Mom hasn't slept. You could at least do the flowers or the cake, please.
Deborah's voice stayed flat. No, Catherine. I am not a caterer. I gave you 9 years. Find another way.
She hung up and sat in the dark kitchen. A familiar guilt tried to rise, but she catalogued the years.
If I make a single cake, I'll be the host again. Not a dish, not a centerpiece, nothing.
Janet's group text arrived. Deborah won't help, so we'll manage. Don't expect an invitation if you can't contribute.
She read it, then typed, I'll attend as a guest. If that's not enough, I'll send a gift. Hit send.
Within minutes, Catherine called. Then Gregory. She let both ring. Edward left a voicemail calling her selfish. That night, Eric found her on the porch, knees drawn up. They might really not invite us, she said.
Eric squeezed her shoulder. If they do, that's their loss. You've already given enough. She leaned into him.
The wedding was held at a rented hall downtown. Deborah and Eric slipped in quietly, finding seats at the back. No one had asked them to help. Janet spotted them and walked past without a word. Catherine's glare said everything.
Gregory found her at the punch bowl. Could have at least offered to set up tables.
She poured herself a drink. I wasn't asked.
A cousin toasted the bride with a joke about Deborah's retirement. The table laughed. Deborah smiled thinly and raised her glass.
After the cake, Janet cornered her near the coat rack. You've ruined this day. Are you happy now?
Deborah buttoned her coat. No, Mom. I didn't ruin it. You expected free labor and got a guest. That's the deal.
Janet's mouth opened, but Edward pulled her away. The room hummed with forced cheer. Later, back on their own porch, the wedding behind them. They replayed none of it, just the sound of wind chimes. The phone stayed silent. The night belonged to them. The shift was no longer a possibility. It was their new reality. Thanksgiving week arrived again. On Monday, Janet's email landed. Are you hosting this year? Or have you truly abandoned us?
Abandoned? She'd fed them for 9 years. That word tasted like ash.
Eric passed coffee. You know what you want to write. Her fingers still hovered.
Catherine called, voice shaking. Gregory's already panicking. Please, just this 1 year. Be the bigger person.
She said nothing for a long moment. Then, I was the bigger person for 31 holidays. I am just a person now.
After the call, she typed her reply. I won't be hosting. I'll attend as a guest, as agreed. If that's not acceptable, I'll celebrate at home. Janet's reply came within minutes. Then don't come. If you can't contribute, you are not welcome.
She read it 3 times. The finality was almost a relief. The old guilt didn't surface. She showed Eric. He pulled her into a hug. Then, it's just us. I'll roast a chicken. We'll be fine.
That evening, the phone rang again, Janet's number. She let it go to voicemail. The screen flashed, then stilled. The silence held. At Gregory's house, smoke billowed from the oven. Catherine's yams had collapsed. Edward refused to sit on a folding chair.
Janet dabbed her eyes. This is not Thanksgiving. This is a food poisoning waiting to happen.
20 minutes away, Deborah spread a linen cloth over her own table. 2 plates, a single candle, no phone in sight.
No one was asking her to carve. No one was criticizing the dessert. The silence was the most exquisite amen.
Eric lit the candle. Best Thanksgiving I've ever had. She laughed softly, lifting her glass.
Afterward, they took their coffee to the porch, wrapped in blankets. The night was cold, but the air was clean.
She stared at the stars. I didn't think I'd actually do it, but I did. I just stopped.
Eric squeezed her hand. And the world didn't end. She leaned her head on his shoulder.
The next morning, Gregory texted an apology, short, gruff, but real. Catherine sent a photo of leftover stuffing, no caption. Deborah smiled, typed Happy Thanksgiving, and put the phone down. The turkey brine recipe sat in the drawer. She'd share it next year. A spring text from Catherine. Easter at my place. Bring a store-bought pie, no one will complain. Just come. She arrived with a lemon meringue and an easy pace. No one handed her an apron. No one flinched. The table was crowded, loud, imperfect. Catherine spilled wine. Gregory argued about the mac and cheese, but no one looked to Deborah to fix it.
Janet reached across the table. Your pie is from the bakery. I can tell. A small smile. Good choice.
She hadn't apologized, but the fork in her hand didn't tremble.
Before sunset, they said goodbye. No one begged her to stay and wash dishes. No one whispered guilt.
Eric started the car. I think that was the first time I've seen your mother look at you like an adult.
She watched the house shrink in the mirror. She's not a monster. She just never learned to see me until I stopped being convenient.
That night, on their own porch, they toasted with coffee. The phone stayed silent. The crickets were louder than any demand.
9 years had ended not with a bang, but with a pie. She was no longer the host. She was just a guest in her own life, and it was enough.
Summer rolled in with a group text. July 4th at Gregory's. Bring a side if you want. No pressure. It felt different.
She made a simple salad and didn't second-guess the dressing. No one would criticize it. Not anymore.
Gregory's yard had fairy lights and folding tables. Catherine pointed to the grill. He's finally learned not to burn the chicken.
Janet handed Deborah a lemonade. Your sister bought paper plates. I almost cried. A laugh, not a complaint.
9 years of her life had been spent in frantic preparation. Now she was just a person holding a plate.
He came up beside her. This is the first holiday where no one's tense. You did that.
Later, on their own porch, the fireworks started faintly. They watched in silence, the distance making them soft.
She said to Eric, I thought I'd feel guilty forever, but now I realize I wasn't abandoning them. I was just choosing me.
He squeezed her hand. No one can host their own life for them. You just showed them how.
The display crackled its finale, and the phone stayed in the house. The night was theirs. The next morning, Deborah woke to a kitchen filled with leftover salad and no anxious thrum. The calendar on the wall was blank.
She opened the fridge. No thawing turkey, no pre-made casseroles. Just the usual milk and eggs.
Eric patted in, coffee in hand. Feels like the first real morning of the rest of our lives.
She leaned against him. I used to dread the morning after. All the dishes, all the silence that meant I wasn't appreciated. Now, the silence is just silence. And I like it. She smiled into his shirt.
Later, on the porch, she watched a neighbor rake leaves. No obligation stirred. No phone call demanded she fix a crisis.
She ran her fingers over the armrest. The same wicker chair where she'd cried after that first Thanksgiving 9 years ago. It felt different now.
The sun dipped. Eric joined her, and they watched the streetlights flicker on. No words needed.
She whispered, I didn't just stop hosting holidays. I stopped letting them host my guilt. Eric kissed her temple.
The old wreath still hung on the door, but the lock was new, and the house behind it was finally just a house. And that was more than enough. Morning light filtered through the porch screen, casting the wreath's shadow across the floor. No phone rang.
She poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one with the chip she never threw away. The kitchen smelled of nothing but fresh brew.
Eric joined her, still in his robe. No group text today? He grinned over his own mug.
She laughed, settling into the wicker chair. None, and if one comes, I'll read it after brunch.
The wicker chairs had absorbed years of frantic mornings. Now they held only stillness, and two people who'd learned to rest.
The calendar page turned to October. No red circles, no countdowns, just the possibility of a trip, or nothing at all.
He saw her glance at the atlas on the shelf. Portugal again? His voice held no expectation.
She shook her head, smiling. Maybe, or nowhere at all. I just want to sit here for a while.
The wind chimes sang once. Inside, the phone remained dark. Outside, the neighborhood woke, and no one needed her. And for the first time in a decade, that felt exactly as it should.